Hello everyone. We're going to continue with our series on surface warfare using naval miniatures in modern times. In this time, we're going to be taking a look at Surface Battle Group version 3. SBG3 is a very, very popular set from what I've been able to gather. It's kind of like a harpoon light sort of thing. It comes with these little handy-dandy counters. It comes with a million little chits for keeping track of what's going on. It keeps track of all these sort of things. It has a really neat surface scale of 1 in 24,000, which is a foot equals 4 nautical miles. We're actually going to divide that by 4, as you'll see in just a minute. In one turn represents about 5 minutes. There's a couple interesting dice conventions in this game as well, and you'll see that when we go. But anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look. This is the same scenario we used in Naval Command. We have the Nanushka over here, but this time we've made a slight substitution. We've gone ahead and gone with the merchant vessel Christophe de Margerie, because if you remember, the Sea-Wise Giant got sunk, and the Sovremenia, which is just a Russian destroyer, is an EM. It's like a generic fleet defense destroyer. So how does this game play compared to the other one? It's a little different. I like some of the mechanisms. I like the way the dice is rolled and all those other things. And other things are kind of, a little bit more contrived. But you'll actually get to see that for yourself today, which should be pretty good. So what do? So the first thing you do is with bridge is you're going to go ahead and place any new speed or status markers, and you actually hide them underneath these little things here. And then we're going to pull those out, as you'll see. We also have to tell our weapon directors if we want to attack or defend with them during the turn. So that's pretty straightforward. So let's take a look here. So the Sovremenia is protecting the Christophe de Margerie. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the top speed of our supertanker here, which happens to be 4 inches. If you remember, I said we're dividing by 4. Why are we doing that? That means when I measure, that's going to give me my distances in nautical miles, which is a little more convenient, as you'll see a little later on. If you have a really, really, really big table, remember 1 foot equals 4 nautical miles. So yeah, I'm going to need a heck of a lot more than what I have right here. But that's fine. You'll see what the deck of cards for and everything's like that in just a little bit. So let's go ahead and plan some orders. So first things first, obviously the Sovremenia is limited to only being able to go the speed of the tanker. We don't want to get away. So it's going to be a 1-inch move. So we're not going to do that, though. We're actually going to put the 4 down for him. To remind us, if we were at the correct scale, we'd actually be traveling 4 inches on the table, which if you think about it, is about a nautical mile. So we're also going to go ahead and order anything as far as radar active and stuff like that goes. We're going to tell the ULCC here to turn on his navigational radar, which is probably going to end up costing us the fight. And then we're also going to use the LR token to notify the fact everybody around that we're actually going to be launching a recovering aircraft. In this case, it's going to be a Kamov 25 helicopter to kind of help us out. We then again can grab one of these guys to actually mark which direction we're going to be traveling with. Normally what you do is you kind of do this on the table like real subtle like, so that you the other player cannot see what you're planning to do because everything is simultaneous during this phase. Meanwhile, the Nanushka, who's way, way, way over here, is going to go ahead and proceed forward. He has a top speed, I believe, let's take a look here, of 9 inches, which is pretty significant. By the way, the reason these are color-coded is because if you're doing a sonar detection, the color indicates kind of the bonus or penalty that you would receive. He's going to remain radar passive. I'm not silly. Whoa! I think I covered up all of them that time. That was a mistake. There we go. So that concludes the bridge phase. So how does this play out? So what we do now is we're going to go ahead and this is kind of cool how this plays. If you're playing this with another player, you get kind of like this little like kind of scary moment or whatever it is, sort of like this. So then what we do is we go ahead and reveal our orders for this particular turn. So everybody goes ahead and uncovers it. I'm actually going to leave these orders more or less the same for the entire game. This is also nice because it reminds us later on what we've done or not done. So that's it for the bridge phase. Now we do detection. So how does detection work? Detection in this game is kind of straightforward. Basically, every one of the different ships has got its own little, radar modifier. In this case, it's a B and a sonar quality A. For the Nanushka, it's let's see, it's a B, and the sonar is also an A. So nobody has an active radar except for the Christophe de Margerie. So what's going to have to happen here is he's going to have to try to passively detect. Now, since he is a B radar and he's passively detecting, it is an 11 up at 41 feet, or it is a 9 up at 27.5 feet. Doing the division for that real quick indicates that that would be an 82-inch distance that he could passively detect the ULCC. In that case, we're at 61 inches, which means it's going to be a 9 or greater on a D20. When you do detection, only one ship per side attempts to detect something else, or plane for that matter. So let's go ahead. So it's going to be a 9 or greater. And scrolling down here, it's going to be -4, which actually makes it a 13 or greater for the Nanuchka to actually be able to acquire that ship's navigational radar. So we're going to go ahead and grab a 20-sided dice, give it a wiggle, and that's a 20, which means that the Christophe is now spotted. It is spotted passively, which is kind of interesting. Note that the ULCC, since he only has what they call navigation radar, he would not be able to surface detect the Nanuchka even if he was in range. So that's going to make this game a lot shorter than I expected it to be, but sometimes that happens. So let's go ahead and move on to the next phase. Our next phase, let's go ahead and scroll down here. We're going to take care of, we're not doing any saw. It's the movement phase. Movement's very straightforward. Again, we've already listed what our movement is supposed to be. Remember, we have to divide by 4 here in order to keep things good. So since I'm keeping this all the same, I'm going to move it as one giant pile. Scrolling on over to this guy, he has a 9 move. Doing the division real quick is going to give us a 2.5-inch forward move. Again, his orders are going to be more or less the same this entire time. So that's it for the movement mode. If we had airplanes and things like that, that would get interesting at this particular time. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here, and now we enter into combat. So combat is a little weird. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just more of I've never seen it done this way kind of a thing. Different, if you prefer. So basically what you do is we roll initiative initially. And there's a couple different modifiers as far as what our initiative it is. So we have an unlocated ship on the Nanuchka side over here. And taking a look down, that's going to be the only modifier. So the Russian crew here, this is going to be their initiative roll. It's a 9. It's going to be tough to beat. So they get to add 1 to this roll. It's an 8, it's a 9. They tie, which technically means there's no bonus, but I'm not going to let that happen this time. I'm actually going to go ahead and pretend as if this was a 9 also, which would give the initiative to this side over here. So I'm going to keep it that way, and you'll see why in a minute. So how is initiative done? So what you do is you take a playing card, take a deck of cards, and you put in one color. You put in 1 card per ship or 1 card per strike group per side of a suit. So in this case, I've got some red, black, and things like that. I'm going to be keeping the Russians as the black cards, and I'm going to be keeping the Nanuchka as the red cards. So anyway, I've gone ahead and I've got to reshuffle this deck now because it's absolute garbage. So when it comes time to do combat, what you would do is remember who got initiative. Then you grab a card off the top of the deck, flip it over, and in this case, it is black. So we would have the ability, by the way, one thing I forgot to mention is during the bridge phase, you have to decide if you are on A or D, which is attack or defense for the various systems on your various ships. So keep that in mind. That's going to be important in a second. So basically, we're good to go. You can see that this is black, which means we get to go first as the Russians. These guys, however, got the initiative roll. So what they can do is choose to refuse one of these cards, and then they get to go ahead and pull from the initiative deck. In this case, they get the attack. So they're going to go ahead and execute attack. So first things first, as always, we need to make sure we're in proper range here. That's a 58. 58 divided by 12 divided by 4. Okay, we're well within range, I'm pretty sure. Taking a look, doing the math really quick. SSN 9. Oh, God, yeah. The range to that is pretty much over to here. So we're pretty good. We're definitely in range. And the good news is that missile's going to arrive in a single turn. So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the actual attack. So the attack is actually pretty straightforward. You simply declare the attack, make sure everybody's in range, which we are, and then you go ahead and resolve the attack normally. Now, the interesting thing here is we're dealing with a escort ship that has defensive missiles, which we're going to have to take into account in just a minute. So you'll see exactly kind of how that plays out in just a moment. Okay, so he's choosing to fire 2 of his SSN 9s. This is actually less than he actually carries, so we're going to go ahead and black these 2 out real quick to let us know they fired. So now these SSNs are going to come scooting down, just whizzing by the Soformenen. And this guy is going to go ahead and attempt. Is he in range? He is in range of everything. So now you come down here and decide what you're going to defend with. Keep in mind the tanker, by the way, has got nothing to defend with. So let's see here. Who's on defense? We can use those guys. So obviously we can't use the SSNs for defense, but we can use these guys. So we have a 4 mount, which gives us a, let's take a look here, 130 millimeter. We're definitely going to use one of those. We don't even need to track ammunition, but I'm going to put a little mark right here. Our 4 mount also mounts an SAN-7 and another SAN-7 in the aft mount. Since it's a missile, it can shoot out of any direction. So I'm going to go ahead and use 2. You're wondering why I'm not using 4 like you should. It's only because of the fact the rate of fire is limited to 1. So that's going to kind of bite us. Our RBU-1000s are worthless. Our torpedo tubes, not so good. We are coming in range of the Sea Whiz. Sea Whiz does matter, and remember it's coming down the port side. So we're going to go ahead and give it a couple bursts. So total, we have 2 Sea Whiz attacks, 2 SAN-7 attacks, and 1 130 millimeter attacks. There's 2 ways to resolve this. There's actually a method in this system where you can roll a 2d6 to measure how many defensive misses there are, but I'm actually going to do it manually this time, just to kind of keep things interesting. So first thing we're going to do is see if the 130 millimeter is successful. So remember, we're attacking 2 missiles. So to hit a missile, we need a 19 or greater, which is probably not going to happen. Oh, that was close. So safe to say the 130 millimeter misses trying to intercept the attack. So now we can use the 2 SAN-7s. Let's see what they get. Their attack is 7 up, which it's doable. 7. So we shoot down 1 missile. What about the other one? 11, yes. Okay, so that means the Sea Whiz shots are actually completely wasted. They go flying into the ocean, but both missiles are destroyed before they hit the Christophe. Now, here's where things get interesting. Since we went defensive and used a system that requires a radar to guide it, we've actually caused our radar mode to go active, which means next turn we have to actually have that and check for passive detections and stuff along those lines. So this guy has nothing else to attack with, so that's it. So now what we do, of course, we go ahead and slap this right there in the pile. We go ahead and draw another card. This is his attack. This is actually the extra card you need in there to make sure the count works correctly. Pull out another card. It's our turn. We've spotted no one yet, which means we can't engage in any attacks. So you can see, while detection is extremely, extremely important, hopefully we get a little bit of revenge here. We'll see what happens next turn. Give these a quick shuffle. So now we move on to the next phase. The next phase, scrolling down here, is launch. So we're going to go ahead and launch our handy-dandy Kamov 25 helicopter. He is not allowed to move until next turn. He also can't attack and things like that next turn. And he's good to go. Moving down, we're going to look at damage control. No issues. And we have morale and rally checks. We have no issues with that. So we're good with that turn. That's it. So now we flip back up to the bridge turn. So we have a couple of radar actives this time. And we also have a helicopter, which I'm also going to declare radioactive. You don't have to tell him how far he's got to move or where he's got to move. That's kind of the nice thing. Meanwhile, over here, we're actually going to turn the ship around because there's absolutely no reason in the world for us to be all the way out here exposed. So we'll have to take that into account after the detection phase. He's going to remain radar passive also. So we now need to decide who's going to attack and who's going to defend. I'm going to leave this on attack mode. These guys are all going to stay on defense mode. We don't know how many bad guys there are out there. Obviously, he's going to leave everything on defense mode also. So we'll see what happens. So now we're all set with the bridge phase. We're going to go ahead and move on to the search phase. So this guy's got an active radar now. I've already done the math on him. He, it's a 5. Okay, so it's a 3 or greater for him to detect this pesky Nanushka all the way over there, so we can probably return fire on him. We just need a 3 or better here. We get a 2! That happens. It just probably this land shadow caused issue, and he just didn't see him. So the good news is the Nanushka still can passively detect both of these guys now because they're all radioactive, radar active, by the way. So he has B passive. It's going to be a 9 up, but it's +4. So this is an attempt to detect the Kamov. Nope, that's a detected. This is an attempt to detect the Sovramenye, which is also detected. So these guys are definitely, their passive training must be really, really good. So all this stuff has been spotted passively. We still have not spotted the Nanushka at this time. So he's going to turn around during the movement phase and try to get back to port. That's smart. So we're going to skip all of this because we don't need it. Now we do movement. We're going to continue moving forward. Again, I'm going to leave this all open. We don't normally do this, but it just makes it a little bit easier. The helicopter, of course, has the ability to move a little bit faster. So we're going to go ahead and put him to work here. You can move up to 7 if I did my math correctly. It should make it a little easier to spot him a little later on. But again, this guy knows that this is happening. So he has a speed of 9, but he's turning around. So what does that mean? That means half of his motion, this 4.5, is going to go ahead and get rid of it. So normally he would come forward 2.5. I'm going to make him come forward 1. He's got to turn himself around. And since we lost half of our motion, half of 2.5 is 2.25. We just moved 1. He gets to move that much more forward. I guess that's nice, right? And of course, next turn, I imagine he's going to go ahead and go straight. He just has to get back to port and it's game. So we'll see how that plays out. These guys have already moved. Helicopter's already moved. Movement is complete. So now we do combat. He's got nothing left, so he doesn't care about combat. I can't engage in combat because I have nothing detected yet, so I can't do anything. So my hands are tied, as they say. So we scroll down here. Let's see here. Damage control, launching, recover. Nope, none of that. So then we go ahead and move on to the next turn. So this will be about 15 minutes into the battle for those of you guys keeping score. Normally what we do is we go ahead and declare all this. I'm going to cancel out his radar active motion here because of the fact also he doesn't need to be launching recovering. So he's going to go passive, which is going to make it so that the Nanuchka cannot detect him. Meanwhile, the Kamov is going to stay active. He's already spotted though, so it doesn't matter that he shut his radar off. So again, it's sort of interesting how that plays out. So anyway, let's go over to our next phase, which is going to be the detection phase. So this guy is going to go ahead. He needs a 3-up to detect the Nanuchka, so we can return fire. Go ahead and give that a quick spin there. That's an 11. Detected. Ah, sweet, sweet revenge. Here it comes. So this guy has been spotted, finally. There's nobody else to spot since everybody's already been spotted at this particular point. So scouting down here, it's time for some movement. These guys are going to come forward their customary 1 inch, which isn't much, but again, this is 5 minutes. He's going to go ahead and move up. He gets 7 inches based on my quick little division in my head here. And he's going to continue. He's going to try to return to base. Oh, he's almost going to make it. Okay, he's actually going to cause everybody to lose lock on him next turn because he's going to be too close to shore. So that's kind of interesting how that played out. Scrolling down, by the way, don't forget during the bridge phase to decide who's going to be what down here. Moving to this one, we're going to go ahead and take a look here. Combat mode, all right. Combat, so we're going to do initiative first. Everybody's detected, so it's straight up. This is for the Russians. They get a 2. This is for the Nanuchka. He also gets a 2, so we got to re-roll. So let's see here. The Russians get a 1. I don't think I can do worse than that. Okay, so the Nanuchka gets a 7, so they get to go ahead and refuse 1 card if they choose to. So we're going to go ahead and take our deck, give it a good shuffle. We're going to go ahead and pull off the top card. It is a red card, which will go to them. They can't fire, so that's that. So we're going to go ahead and pull this one out. There's also a red card. He still can't fire. So we're going to go pull this one out. This is one of our cards. So he, of course, had initiative, so he's going to refuse that card, which is completely pointless, because I've just got to grab another one, and it's going to be one of my cards. All right, time to return the favor. So we're going to attack with 2 SSN 22s. They have a 16-foot range. Their speed is extremely high, so we do not need to calculate kind of everything pre-rotate or pre-measured as far as how long it's going to take to get to the target. So that works great for us. So we're going to go ahead and fire. He, of course, is going to attempt to block it. So let's see what he has. He has an aft-mounted Sea Whiz. He's not stupid. He's only gets 1 rate of fire, though. He's also got a... he can use one of these, so he has 2 that he can try to shoot down with. His Sea Whiz is up 13, and his normal missile is an 11 up. So let's see if any of these missiles hit. So I should say he shoots down any of these missiles. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and try the SAN. It's an 11 up. He gets an 8. So the missile is not destroyed. So no matter what happens, one of these is going to connect. His Sea Whiz on the flip side, let's see what that does. He needs to be a 13 up. He gets a 13. He shoots down 1 missile, but if you take a look, 1 SS-922 finds the target and does 2d6 plus 3 damage. So let's grab 2d6. Roll. So that's 5, 6, 7 damage against Our poor Nanuchka here, again, he's got 2 hull points. It doesn't take much to do math to realize 7 against 2 leaves him with -5. So revenge. This craft is completely destroyed. This missile will go hit him right in the butt, and then it would have been game over. So anyway, that's Surface Battle Group. Things get interesting once you throw in strike aircraft and dogfighting and submarines, but we'll probably leave that for another day. Enjoy.